Hi, my name is Halyan and I am student of Nehan School in the class Future Navigator. I am excited because I get to introduce someone amazing, Alison. She done so many impressive things like going to Harvard, writing books, speaking at event, being part of the International Space University, flying planes, being a mom of 11 kids, running, riding horses, and helping others. So, without time wasting, start our interview. Hello, Alison. How are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm doing really great.
Yeah. First of all, I am very thankful to you to giving me your precious time to me.
Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Okay. First of all, can you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Please introduce yourself.
I am Allison Renault. I'm from the United States. I grew up on a farm and I was an only child. Um, I ended up falling in love and getting married, and I thought I would have maybe just one or two kids, but somehow I ended up with 11. And nine of those were girls and two are boys. And as I began to raise my kids and they got a little bit older, there was a feeling in my heart I wanted to do more with my life. And that involved in me getting educated. So I got my education at the university locally, and then I went to Harvard and got my master's in international relations with a focus in our U.S. Space program. And then from there, attended International Space University, and it seemed that the doors were opening for me to be involved in space exploration. I worked at NASA headquarters in Washington D.C. and also traveled quite a bit internationally. I don't work for NASA anymore. I have my own space consulting business and also do a lot of keynote speaking around the world, both in person and virtually. And but my favorite thing is really the humanitarian work and the helping other people that are in tough situations that intersects with my career. This brings me really truly the greatest joy.
Okay, thank you. So my first question is, as someone with such as an impressive and diverse background, could you share with us some key moment or experience that have shaped your journey to becoming Harvard graduate, other speaker, International Space University affiliate, pilot, mother of 11 runner, and humanitarian?
Well, we'll just hit a couple of those, but I would say that the key moments in a lot of the courageous decisions I've made to better my life was taking the first step. The first step was the most difficult for a variety of reasons. Often, when we have a dream, we have a lot of obstacles. And I think one of the biggest obstacles is we don't believe we can do it. And taking the first step, I remember each time that I finally called Harvard and talked with them about the admission process. That sticks in my mind because I remember being even too scared or too feeling too unworthy to even make that sort of phone call. I remember the first time I put my foot on the ground at Harvard. And I remember thinking, this is amazing, that I actually, as a mother of 11 kids that doesn't have much, fame or fortune or, accomplishment in my life at this point, that I could actually have this chance. And I'll never forget the way I felt. It was like stepping into a fairy tale. Of course, it required a lot of hard work. And to be honest, the challenge of the journey of going to school there and the accomplishments of taking an exam and doing well, it meant more to me than even the day I graduated. The graduation was just a ceremony, right? But it was those times I was afraid and I did it anyway. And I came out successful that stick with me more than anything because those things you can apply to your life, the rest of your life. So it was the journey and it was the process and little moments along the way, like I just said, that stick in my mind. That's a really good question.
Okay. Balancing such a wide range of roles and responsibilities must be challenging. How do you manage your time and your various pursuits?
Well, I think that two things I do is I manage my time well, and I don't waste my time on a lot of silly things. Although need to have fun from time to time. And I write out my schedule each morning. For me, I'm a spiritual person. I do my prayer first, which and then I go for my morning run, and I make that list as I mentioned, and I do my best to stay on task during the day. But I feel like all of us have 24 hours in a day, and if we sleep 8 hours and we eat for 3 hours and we work for 8 hours, that's 19. So that leaves another, 5 hours, 6 hours to pursue other things that we want to do. And if you manage your time well, it's amazing how much you can accomplish.
Okay. Um, Being associated with the International Space University is fascinating. Could you tell us about your involvement with this institution and your interest in space exploration?
International Space University was something I actually had never heard of, but I had a professor at Harvard, a woman, who was very involved in space, and she knew I had an interest, but I had no knowledge. So she suggested I attend. And she said if I would apply, that she would write a letter of recommendation. And suddenly I found myself accepted to a university that's sponsored by NASA and many other powerhouses in the space business, like Boeing, Lockheed Martin. Uh, Suddenly found myself accepted to this school that I didn't know much about. And each year it's held at a different location around the world. So when I attended, it was in Canada. Right now, for instance, it's being held in Brazil. And they bring together, International Space University brings together space professionals from all over the planet, so many different countries. And there's about 100 to 120 of us that spend about 10 weeks together. And we learn everything there is about space, not just our category. So I learned about engineering. I learned about rocket launches. I learned about orbital mechanics. I learned about planetary science. I learned about space law. They sort of teach you every single aspect in find it that you are involved in space, and they do it for two reasons. One, they want us to respect everybody's expertise, and we don't want the engineers looking down on the policy people. We don't want the policy people looking down on the scientists. We don't want, so they teach respect. They also teach respect for all cultures, and we all became best friends, working together, learning together. And when you graduate from International Space University, since it's been around for about 35 years, you immediately become extremely interconnected with the alumni network. And we take care of each other, and we help each other, and we introduce, make introductions or whatever is needed, because each of us went to that challenge of that very difficult university, and there's a bond there for life. So that was my incredible experience at International Space University.
Okay, with your extensive experience as a pilot, what entirely drew you to aviation and how has flying entered your life?
My father was a pilot, and from a very young age, I would always crawl in the airplane with him and ride right up in the sky. And I actually really loved it, and it became, something that I guess it was got in my heart. And so when I went to university after high school, I majored in aviation and began to take all the courses and classes. And I enjoyed not just the flying aspect of actually getting in the plane and flying up in the air and being, seeing the earth from the sky, but also really loved the courses that were teaching me about the physics, about the science, about the mechanical engineering of the engine, and all the safety aspects involved. It also taught me to follow rules exactly, because if you don't follow the rules exactly, you are defying the laws of gravity when you're up there, and you want to make sure that you do exactly as you're told. You don't skip anything, and do exactly as you're told, and really just being part of the pilot family is fun as well. There's a lot of mutual respect among pilots.
Okay. Being a mother of 11 extraordinary, how do you approach parenting and maintain a sense of balance within your family?
As a woman, I feel like being a mother is really my most important job. So when my kids were young and growing up, they were the priority. They got the best of my energy and the best of my time, and I enjoyed. God made every single person different, and every single person has a unique gift and talent. And so it was really nice to kind of watch and see what does this child love, and how can I grow that gift, and how can I enhance their life and make it more fun than just going to school. So, like for instance, one of them was very good at swimming, so they made sure she had swim lessons and she could compete. Another very good at American baseball, and making sure that he had the chance to be on a baseball team. So uh, this was my focus, was them. And as a mother, actually, your own personal dreams go to the side for a while, and that's okay, because as a woman, I have the opportunity to live different chapters. So now I'm in a different chapter. My kids are grown, and my last one is leaving the house for university, and I have more time, and I just you know invested in them, and I don't regret it, because they're educated now, and living their best life, and I don't try to control their life. I want them to pursue their dreams, and each and every one is really doing good, and it's fun to watch.
Okay, my next question is, how do you handle setbacks or challenges in your life, and what strategies or do you use to overcome them?
When we have setbacks, all of us do. We all have them. It actually, it kind of hurts. It kind of hits you in the heart. It makes you sad at first. At first, you're going to feel a little depressed and a little discouraged and sad, and you kind of have to realize, okay, this is the first step. The next step is the decision to overcome the obstacle. And how am I going to do it? And what steps am I going to take? And it's hard to do that when you're feeling a little bit sad, or you're feeling a little challenged, but you have to. You have to step forward, and you have to go. You have to realize that this happens to everybody. And then, as I have a setback, I actually really learn from it. I either learn to avoid it next time, or maybe I need to change something in my life. Maybe I need to improve myself. Maybe I caused the setback. Maybe it wasn't somebody else. So I look within also to see how can I improve, and how can I learn, and then I go forward. And I think there's a person we all know that does a beautiful job with setbacks, and that's Elon Musk, the owner of SpaceX. When he is testing rockets, the media gets all crazy when they blow up at first and he fails, and he doesn't care. He knows that failure is a part of the process towards success. And so he just keeps trying and trying, and there's no discouragement. And I think I've learned a lot from him.
Okay, Alison, share your view about the engines of Starship.
About Starship, um, well, fortunately, I've met and talked with several times the person in his company that makes it happen, and it's a woman, and she's amazing. She's amazing for a couple of reasons. One, she's an aerospace engineer, but in high school, she was a cheerleader, an enthusiastic girl. And when Elon hired her at first, well, many, many years ago, he saw that in her. He saw the joy and the enthusiasm. And she does a beautiful job of taking his ideas and his dreams, his impossible dreams, and bringing it into reality. And her name is Gwen Shotwell. You should look her up sometime. And you know, Elon makes a lot of promises and he states his goals, and he always accomplishes them. And there's always a delay, because there's going to be failures and mistakes along the way and a lot of testing. But Starship is a game changer because it can transport a lot of people from one place to the other. It is the answer we need for a Mars journey. And I think it's going to transform the cost of going into space. You think about, 100 years ago, it cost a fortune to fly on an airplane. But now with, these great big aircraft we have, a lot of us can fly from one place to another for, minimal cost compared to what it used to be. So they're going to really drive down the price for common people, like myself or you, to be able to go into space, maybe to the moon or onto Mars, who knows?
Okay, can you share any exciting project or future you are currently working on or have planned?
I have a project that I'm super excited about right now. And, I like to try to intersect my career with humanitarian work because I came from a really tough background and I came from nothing. And I know how it feels to be like discouraged with no one to help you. And so I always try to remember to stay humble and help people along the way. And so because of that, sometimes opportunities come to me that I want to take advantage of. For instance, I was recently at SpaceX headquarters in Los Angeles, and I took a picture. And it just so happened that one of the head chiefs of the Amazon rainforest tribes, saw the picture and reached out to me with a video asking if there's any way that I can bring the SpaceX Starlink internet to the rainforest tribes because it would help save lives. They could have communication from tribe to tribe. They could have access to medical help in health emergencies. They could, know about weather in advance, and also for the education of their kids. So they asked for 20 of the tribes to get these satellite dishes, and they're all have arrived now. I was able to raise the money to do it. And then the most special thing I think is I've been invited personally to go back into the rainforest, back into the primitive tribes that have had no contact, many of them with the outside world. And I get to meet them and I get to see the amazing life they live. There'll be no electricity and no special things like that, but there's going to be so much I'll learn from these people. And it's a privilege to be able to go there. And also in my heart, you feel like you're contributing and making their lives better. So I think this is the one that's, on the horizon right now. There's several, but that one really stands out to me.
Okay, as an author, how do you approach the creative process and what advice would you give to aspiring writers?
Writing a book isn't easy. And, I think that I would encourage you to write the first paragraph. I think the first paragraph is the hardest one to write, just getting started. Because I think everyone feels a little writer's block at first. And you wonder if what you're writing is someone's going to like it, if they're going to read it. And I think you have to also write in a language, not the language you choose, but the way you write it. You have to write it so people can understand it. You don't want to use such big words and fancy things where people can't relate to what you're saying. So my book I wrote was based on my research at Harvard. In fact, a New York publisher reached out and asked me to turn it into a book. So I did. And it's called Moon First, Mars Second. And it's it talks about should NASA go to the moon first or should NASA go to Mars? And when you start the book and you write the first chapter, you feel kind of excited, and all of a sudden you feel like you're on a honeymoon. But then you get to the middle of the book, and you get tired of it, and you don't want to finish. And so at that point, I talked with some friends, and I said, "Friends, I need some encouragement here. Why don't you fire me up to finish and make me accountable?" And so they did, and they worked with me and just edited and looked at things, and it was nice to have not to just to go it alone, and having partners and friends along the way, and in the end, they feel a part of it. And I dedicated some of the book to these people who helped me along the way. But what happened was this little book that I wrote that I didn't really believe that I could was released on Amazon and became the #1 new release on Amazon when it was published a couple of years ago. So you never know. You never know, even that when you don't believe in yourself, somebody else might, and then you might succeed. And it's very rewarding now that I did it, because I think I can do it again, and I plan to.
Okay, are you going to write about space travel, relating it with human sentiments?
I think the next book I would like to write is more about empowering people to accomplish their dreams. Everybody has an idea or a dream in their heart, and we really give up sometimes. And there's this voice in our head constantly that tells us why we can't do it. So if you're young, your voice will say you're too young. Nobody will respect you. If you're a little bit older, you'll say, well, it's too late. I'm older. Who cares? I'm washed up. I'm finished. I shouldn't write this. So, you always have this voice that is playing in the back of your head. And I want to help people eliminate that negative voice and draw upon their positive inside, and really write down, because everybody I meet has more expertise in something than I do. And you can learn from anybody. And everybody needs to write a book. Everybody needs to write down what they've learned, what they can do. And because the world needs what you have. And maybe the first book is not perfect. Well, that's okay, because you're going to get better and better as you do it. And so that's how I approach it, and that's how I think about it. And that's the kind of subject I love, is really empowering people. And I could write about a lot of things. And I think some of the stories of the humanitarian work I've done, whether it be in Afghanistan, Amazon rainforest, or some other places around the world, Africa. I want to write stories about this, because people I've met along the way are just incredible, and it would just hopefully encourage people to do more, to reach out and help other people.
Okay, looking back on your incredible journey, what moments stand out as the most memorable and or impactful for you, and why?
For me, the most impactful is the moment when you don't get anywhere in life without somebody noticing you, noticing your accomplishments, noticing your hard work, and lifting you up to the next level. Because you really can't lift your own self up into a new strata without somebody, inviting you to their level, you might say, inviting you into their world, and inviting you to their network. And every time somebody notices, believes, and says, "Hey, could you come do an interview with me?" Each one stands out to me, because it makes you feel special. It makes you feel like somebody else is believing in you. And so I want to thank you in particular for believing in me enough to think I was worthy for an interview. And these are the things that surprise me each time, is when somebody says, "Hey," I remember the first time someone said, "Hey, do you want to come to Washington, D.C. and work at NASA? I'll get you interviews." I remember, the first time that the Amazon chief said, "Hey, will you come here, and will you help us with internet?" And it's always a miraculous surprise, right? That when someone notices, because I'm not really out there I don't have a public relations firm that's promoting me or trying to, I just have social media just like you do. And when people take notice and they want to use your services and they want to lift you up, it's like, wow, my life means something. And you know, if you work hard, all of you, anyone that's listening, and you just become the best right where you are, and you bloom where you're planted, and you find joy in your circumstances, even if they're good and even if they're bad, people take notice of this. And I would just encourage everyone to keep trying, doing your best, and you'll be amazed at the doors that God will open for you.
Okay, so my last question is, as an accomplished speaker, what topic do you mostly enjoy addressing, and what message do you aim to convey to your audience?
I like to talk about space exploration. A lot of people don't realize that their everyday life is full of space related technology. You know, for instance, you and I are here talking halfway around the world because of satellites constantly. You know, when we navigate to from in our navigation on our phones from one place to the other, we are using space spinoffs. Space gives us weather warnings, natural disasters. Space does so much, and I love to talk about the benefits of space exploration, pushing the boundaries of humanity, because all of that, everything we do in space translates to jobs at home, also translates to salaries here on Earth. Everything we do in the space world benefits people here on Earth. So I love talking about it because a lot of us don't realize how intertwined our lives are with space every single day. And then I like to always uh, weave in there about accomplishing impossible dreams. It is truly, truly possible to do it. Human beings are amazing once they set their mind to something.
Okay, thank you, Alison, for talking to me. You are a big inspiration, and I really enjoyed hearing about all the cool things you have done. I hope you keep doing great stuff in the future.
Thank you. And I want to say thank you for being so organized and sending me all the questions ahead of time. And you're really amazing for your age. So keep going and keep dreaming and never give up. Don't ever give up. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.